Well, hey guys, welcome back to the show again. Glad to be with you. This is your host, Hunter McWaters, and I know you guys are probably sick of hearing me talk about it, but recently partnered up with GOHUNT, and today I got a podcast with one of the co-founders of GOHUNT, Lorenzo Sartini. Lorenzo is a really interesting guy, a great businessman, heck of a hunter. When I was out there in Vegas, I saw his office, and it is impressive to say the least. He has an entire wall of like killer antelope mounts, a nice collection of sheep, and but still really humble guy. Like I would never have. Honestly, I didn't even know he was that accomplished of a hunter till I went and saw his office, which kind of speaks to his humility. But yeah, killer hunter. He was an athlete. Big into football. Obviously, as we get into the episode, he's built a really impressive company in GOHUNT. They have the gear shop. They just launched Outdoor Class, which is an e-learning platform. They have their research tools, and then they also have their mapping tools that just launched. All really good stuff I use regularly. I've mentioned before, and I'm going to mention again, if you need anything in the gear shop or you want to sign up for GOHUNT, I've been using GOHUNT for years, even before I started the podcast, even before it was even a question of partnering with them. I joined GOHUNT as an insider just because it's a legit research tool, and I haven't accomplished like insane amounts in my career as far as Western hunting goes, but everything I have accomplished, I owe part of that to GOHUNT because such a great resource, and I just learned so much and used it a lot. So now I'm using their mapping software. They got a killer gear shop with good stuff in there. Anyway, I've talked about it before. You can use the code QUEST. Now, I do have a small correction. I've been saying 20% you save in the gear shop. That is actually not correct, and that's an honest mistake on my part. I was not trying to trick you guys or anything like that. You save 10%, not 20%, so I apologize for that. I wanted to fix that error. It's still a good deal, and you still will be supporting the show when you use that code and be getting some great gear. So it's a win-win for all. But I just did want to correct that. So anyway, it's a great conversation I have with Lorenzo. We talk about GOHUNT a little bit, but also we talk about conservation and non-resident hunting and all that kind of good stuff. So hope you enjoy this one, and we'll see you on the next one. So let me just say to the listeners out there, welcome to the Hunter's Quest podcast. I'm here today with the founder and CEO of GOHUNT, Mr. Lorenzo Sartini. How you doing, man?
Good. I hate titles, so we'll drop the CEO part. We'll just say somehow I'm lucky enough to be the founder.
Yeah, man. We were just talking about coming back from a long weekend. So what'd you guys do out there in Vegas?
I have a 3-year-old son, so just
nice.
ton of pool and makeshift play pirates, play water balloons, play just a lot of that kind of stuff. But he was having a blast. He's finally old enough now at 3 to like understand 4th of July is something.
Right.
Like he was pretty excited for it. And then just the legal fireworks now that he's 3.
Yeah.
Be clear that they were legal. So did a bunch of that. Just a lot of pool. I mean, shit. And sorry, can we cuss on here? Is that okay?
Yeah. I mean, I usually keep it clean. So, but I mean, like,
I'll
not a big deal.
But yeah, we just a lot of pool. I mean, in Vegas, like if you don't in the summertime, if you're not in the pool, you're gonna pretty much die. So
it's got to be like the surface of the sun out there right now.
Yeah. Yes. Although I will say, like my wife and I were talking, we got really lucky on the 4th. I mean, other people might not think this is lucky, but it was only, I think it was 101 or 102. It was nice out. And then at night, like it was beautiful at night. So we got kind of lucky.
That is nice. And here, I mean, I'm in Virginia, and 102 with like 90% humidity just hits different. You know what I mean?
Do you guys actually get that hot?
That's rare. Usually we're high 90s, mid 90s. But like I said, when you add that,
I would take 110 in Vegas over that all day long.
That's what I'm saying, dude. That
Yeah.
sticky, just like you walk out and you instantly just
Yeah.
feel gross.
My
Yeah.
family, so my mom's side of the family is from Galveston, Texas.
Okay.
And the summertime down there too. I mean, yeah, it's only 90 degrees, but it's 98% humidity. Like,
Yeah.
get me out of there. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
And
It's
people
like even
think
at
I'm crazy.
nighttime, it's miserable.
It's miserable. And people think I'm crazy when I say in Vegas, like, as long as you're in the shade, it's super manageable. Like,
Yeah.
it's really not that hot because it's so dry. It's
Right.
like in the shade. Like, if you're in the black shade, you're good.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So we were just saying, so yeah, you're based in Vegas. So I know you got kind of some guys in different spots.
Yeah.
Who is there in the Vegas office?
So we have about the majority of the team is here in the office in Vegas on a given. So we have like a hybrid work from home ever since
Right.
the virus, right? So like we run these cycles where some of the departments will come in and others will have an off week, so we don't like overrun the office with noise and crazy stuff. But about once a quarter, we have everyone come um, in the home office here in Vegas, and there's I don't know, there's maybe 40 or 50 people here. So like Brady is here, Chris Neville's here, Trail is in Cedar City, but that's probably the three that most people would know.
Yeah.
Um, Myself and Chris Porter, the guy I founded the business with, he runs the operations of the business. He's here. Our like warehouse and e-com setup is all here.
Okay.
Our CTO is here. So like a lot of this is definitely headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then our Cedar office, Cedar City, Utah, that's like what we call the research office. So Brandon Evans, which a lot of people would know, and his whole team. So he runs that office up there. So that's all of our like research team, the people that are actually doing the analytics of the fish and game
Yeah.
outputs. They're the ones that are kind of ingesting, parsing, and putting that all into their place.
Nice.
And then we have an office in Bozeman, which is our content office. So
Okay.
a lot of our content that we do with other people, and a lot of the content that we are currently doing now with Outdoor Class,
Yeah.
uh, ran out of that office.
Nice. Yeah, man. I've been diving into outdoor class a little bit, and I
Yeah.
want to get into that a little later. But you guys, I mean, it's killer. Just the visuals on that thing are beautiful, and just the way it's put together is top
It's
notch.
always good. It's always a good thing to have this, but I genuinely am surprised how amazing it turned out. Like I obviously had high hopes.
Right.
Why would you ever go into a venture if you don't have high expectations and high hopes, right?
You're right.
Like you're set up for failure if you don't have that. But even going into it with that, and I do have high standards. Um, I'm not shy of the fact that I have very high standards. I think it would show through Go Hunt and what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and even with that, like when it returned back, well, kind of the first pass of looking at it and going through it and seeing how this was all going to line out. I mean, I am very surprised at how well all of this really did come together.
Yeah. Because, I mean, obviously, content is very important, like what's being said,
Yeah.
what's being taught. But at the same time, it's just like a podcast. Like, if you turn on a podcast and it sounds like some garbage recorded in a garage, like, you're probably going to turn it off, even if what the guy's saying is good. So,
Yeah,
like, the fact that, like, I was looking at the Mule Deer module with Remy Warren, and, like, just the B-roll footage is just, like, beautiful, and you're just, like, it just makes you want to watch it more. You know what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah, there's no question about it. Just the look and feel, right? The five senses. I mean, obviously the smell is out of it since we're indoors and watching it through a screen. But yeah, it's like the more you can put all of it together, the visual and the audio and like all the feel, the vibe you get from it, the more all of that comes together, just the better it is. And it really did come together. Like
For sure.
it's
But
awesome.
do want to talk a little bit more about that later. But just kind of jump in, just getting to know you a little bit, man. Like, what was it? What was it like growing up in Vegas? That sounds interesting.
It was interesting. Not as interesting as some may think. I like it's pretty normal. So Vegas, if you stay on the local side, so like the really interesting thing about Vegas is you obviously have the strip. That's what everybody knows.
Right.
Casinos and hotels and these massive resorts in the middle of the desert. Vegas is obviously super famous for that. But it obviously takes a lot of people to support, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of workforce at these major resorts and all the attraction that we have here in Vegas. So there's a huge local side of the town, like a massive local side. And back when I was growing up, it's much bigger now. I actually live where I used to cottontail hunt. Literally right now I live where I used to cottontail hunt in high school. Which is interesting. But back in the day, like when I was in high school, there was two major parts of the town. There was the west and then the southeast. So Henderson and kind of Summerlin west area of Vegas. And I grew up on the west side. And like it was pretty normal, like super local, kind of knew everyone who lived around you. Vegas is really famous for being a small big town. Like if you are born and raised here, it does feel very small. Like you're always going to school with somebody's cousin or brother or some kind of family member. Like my parents went to school with my best friend's parents, right? Like it's kind of interesting how that works out when you're a true local here. And sports and all that stuff, it just feels very normal. Now the interesting part is my high school was on the strip, literally. Like I had to take so I went to Bishop Gorman, which a lot of people may know. They're probably sour about Bishop Gorman if they do know why. It's become just a massive powerhouse in sports.
Okay.
High school sports. I did not go to that Gorman. I went to the original Gorman before it became this national powerhouse that travels and beats everyone in one state every year and everybody hates it. Because it's a private school, so like there's no zoning, there's no right. So they kind of took off on the athletic side. But when I went to the old school before it became that, my high school, the actual campus, was one of the older schools here in town. It was a Catholic school, and it was down literally on the old strip. So I had to drive down Las Vegas Boulevard, the north side of Las Vegas Boulevard, where it originally started, like Binion's Horseshoe and old downtown casinos. Like I would drive through that to go to high school. So obviously there's a lot of other attractions down there as well that Las Vegas is well known for.
Yeah.
I would drive through that every day to go to high school, but it becomes a like just normal, just completely normal, right?
Yeah, man. So did you play sports?
I did. Yeah. I grew up playing all sports. But then when I got into high school, I took football very serious. Gorman was a good sporting school when I was there, but that wasn't what it was all about. It was much more academics, much more college prep, much more focused around like getting people into really good schools, not so much athletics like it is today. But we did have good sports though. And I played football. I was very fortunate to have some athletic talent that was allowed me to get looked at by some colleges.
Wait, this is just a guess. Did you play defensive end?
I didn't.
Okay.
Actually, I'm a very large outside linebacker. So I'm like defensive end size per se, right? But somehow I was fast and light on my feet.
Nice.
So I don't know. So I played outside linebacker and kind of like a down safety. Was what it would be known as today. Like we ran kind of an old school defense. So really today it'd be kind of like a special package, strong safety, down safety is what I was playing. And yeah, I played, I got looked at by a bunch of schools. Super fortunate for that. And what it allowed me to do, honestly, is so I grew up as a hunter in Las Vegas. That came from my dad's side of the family. So my dad's side of the family, his uncle Bill, his cousin Heath, they were the hunters in the family, right? So my mom's side was from Texas. My dad's side is from Northern California. Okay. And those Northern Californians, they were farmers up there. So they did a lot of hunting, a lot of waterfowl hunting, big game hunting, kind of, old school farmers and provide for yourself kind of a life. And my dad's uncle Bill was a successful businessman and bought a piece of property in southern Utah. And that's where the hunting came from. So my dad, as a teenager and into college and as a young adult, was hunting with my uncle Bill in southern Utah. Nice. So that since I was born, I've been around it. My dad is a huge outdoorsman. I mean, granted, he was extremely busy in his career growing up, but we always found time to go hunting ever since I was a kid. Like, what
was your dad's career? What did he do?
So he's in casinos and gaming.
Okay.
So he's worked his way up. I mean, he's got an amazing story if he ever would agree to do a podcast, but he worked his way up from a 25-cent craps dealer now to he's chairman and CEO of a publicly traded business, all casino gaming related. So resorts, the Stratosphere in Las Vegas,
Yeah, I've heard of it.
one. So he owns that.
Wow, nice.
A bunch of other casinos through Las Vegas, other parts of Nevada. He owns a gaming route in Montana, and then a couple other like regional casinos, Maryland and some other places. So he truly worked his way up from being spit on as a 25-cent crap stealer when he was, young 20s,
Wow.
into where he is today. So he was obviously unbelievably busy.
Yeah.
But he was an amazing dad, like coached some of my baseball growing up, took me hunting anytime I wanted to. But the hard part with it though was I was very focused on football, right? He had a career and I was very focused on football, trying to get to the next level. And football and hunting season don't do very well together.
Yep.
Obviously, they're over the exact same time period. So it was always really difficult, as serious as I was taking football, to find time to go hunting the way I wanted to. So when I was getting looked at by some colleges, I really took that as my opportunity to like change my lifestyle, to be like a true outdoorsman, live in an outdoorsman's paradise, right? Like it was my chance of, Vegas, it's nicely located for where it is, right?
Yeah.
Like we're 4 hours any direction from amazing hunting. The OTC stuff in Arizona to, all through 4 hours out of Vegas and Nevada is amazing. Southern Utah, all the opportunity in Southern Utah. Back when I was in high school, if you drew an archery tag, it was just a statewide archery tag.
Oh, wow.
There was no units back then. So, it was really good opportunity. But I wanted that like out the back door kind of lifestyle.
Right.
And so that's what I was looking at. I got looked at by some colleges. And my number one priority in the decision making was, it's outdoorsman's paradise kind of a place. So my dad went to University of Utah, and I got looked at pretty hard by them, and was essentially verbally offered, which was cool that my dad went there. And it was right after they beat Alabama in the bowl game, so it was pretty cool.
Nice.
But Salt Lake just wasn't. And I was really struggling with the decision of like, that was the best school I had an offer by, or even been looked at by. And it's always, you always want to go to the best of your options.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really struggling with like, I'm still in the same, it's Salt Lake City, right? Yeah, there's hunting outside of it, but it's not what I'm looking for.
Right.
It's kind of the same of what I'm dealing with in Nevada, in Vegas. So I was struggling pretty hard, and I had a friend tell me about University of Montana, which is D1AA. And D1AA also is the requirements of time. I don't want to sound like I'm trying to dodge out on some hard work, but it's
college sports is like legit.
Yeah,
that's like a full-time job, man.
And what it was in my head too is I was just struggling with this, like, how can I kill two birds, one stone? And I found University of Montana from a friend. I went up there to a football camp. I was offered at the camp. Absolutely fell in love with Missoula. That is truly an outdoorsman's paradise. I was a big snowmobiler back then too. So like, any direction you could go, there's snowmobiling, fly fishing, hunting.
Missoula is beautiful, man. I was just up there. I stopped by and stayed at Mark Livesey's house for a night before we went bear hunting. And like, that's a really cool town, man.
I love it. Absolutely love it up there. And, I fell in love. I was a big waterfowler too. And, I don't want to blow anything up, but Montana has some incredible waterfowl.
Dude, I feel like there's a lot of waterfowl opportunity out west that like no one touches. Like when I was antelope hunting in Wyoming, we'd be driving around looking for goats and like see a little pond and just be full of ducks. Nobody even giving them a second look.
Yes.
Like if you grabbed 6 decoys and just went out there, you could just like kill a limit and then go antelope hunting.
It was the waterfowl hunting was unbelievable. I don't want to sell it too hard,
Yeah.
my spot's taking over, but it was incredible. So I ended up going to University of Montana. But there's my personality, when you get older and more mature and you start to understand yourself a little bit better, like I have this, like, if I'm not fully bought into something, I can't fake it. I can't like,
yeah, same way.
and I'm an all or nothing person too, which is really good or bad, because if I'm into something, it is
Yeah.
very hard to get myself to come back to like my current responsibilities. If I get super into something, I just want to like go down the path as far and
Yeah.
as deep as possible, as quick as possible,
Yeah.
like send. And it's always hard
That's
for me.
yeah, like I
Like,
say, it's a blessing and a curse too, because sometimes you can
it,
talk yourself out of stuff because you're like, I don't have time to do that 110%, so I'm not gonna do it at all.
and I know, and exactly, and I know what it's going to do to me, and I can't leave my current priorities, right?
Right.
I'm just, I can't fake something if I'm not fully into it. I'm not good at multitasking at all, especially with like, real dedication multitasking, not like, read a text message and talk to your wife at the same time. I'm talking like full lifestyle decision making
Yeah.
multitasking. And I was very unsettled with, I'm making the decision to play based on hunting first. And I'm taking the opportunity away from somebody who might truly need a scholarship, which I didn't. And, and somebody who really wants to dedicate their lives to football. I'm trying to dedicate my life to getting out of Vegas, to be an outdoorsman. I don't need football to do that. Right. Like, it was a massive struggle in my mind of like, the last thing you want to, you think you're a quitter, you think you're giving up on it, you think you're all this stuff. And I was pretty spun out on what I was going to end up doing. So I said, I'm going to go up there for the summer and kind of figure it out, see what's going on. I ended up revoking and staying in school there, and just became like a true degenerate of an outdoorsman. Somehow I graduated in 4 years still. Went to the business school there, finance and marketing.
Okay.
And I never failed the class, did very well. I honestly don't know how I did that, looking back on like some of my pictures and videos and how much I was actually out there. I bought a Chesapeake Bay Retriever, trained her myself,
Okay.
went huge into waterfowl.
That's where I
Just,
got my start, man, because I grew up on the Chesapeake Bay. So
yeah,
my first hunting experience was in a duck blind or a dove field, and yeah, man, it's fun.
it's way too fun, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I get made fun of around the office here because, there's a lot, there's a few big game hunts that I would rather waterfowl hunt over. And people just, being in Go Hunt and guys like
Right.
Brady, some of these guys, they just don't understand. But man, I was so deep into it. And like you said, shoot a limit and go kill antelope or a whitetail afterwards. I can't tell you how many times I did that. And I mean, it was awesome. I traveled all through all the Northwest states, Oregon, Washington. Then I'd go east, North Dakota, South Dakota, Colorado, Wyoming. Like I was all over the place there.
Nice.
And when I was living there, it wasn't like there was no vision of Go Hunt by any means at this time, but there was like a paradigm shift in my mind where, I was born and raised in the Southwest, where opportunity wasn't a thing. There are tons of public land. And when I mean tons, I'm talking like 90+% of the state is public. And like the private land just isn't even a thought. Like, and down here, a lot of the laws down here in the Southwest states, the private land legally is on the landowner. So if you're not posted every 200 yards with marking tape or neon paint or anything, like trespass isn't a thing. It's all on. So I grew up in a very different mindset of like, tags were hard to get, but going hunting was super easy.
Right.
Then I'm up there in the Northwest, and man, opportunity was like, I couldn't believe it. And I was meeting kids. This is a beautiful thing about college too, and just sports in general. Like I had some friends play pro from high school. And it's an amazing thing to be with the same age group of people that are generally into the same stuff, right? So like college, sports, whatever it is, it's an amazing gift to have. Like those times of your life are very special.
Yeah.
And when I was up there and I kind of built this group, well, we all kind of built a group obviously as friends, but we had friends from each one of these different states, somebody who was a resident of North Dakota, South Dakota, Washington, Oregon, Idaho,
and they could help you figure out each state.
Yeah.
Huh?
We're all into the same stuff. So obviously I'm telling them about Nevada from a resident perspective, which is the best of the best, right? Like all the little ins and outs, and they're telling me about their respective states. So I start to learn like, man, you guys just think about this entirely different. Opportunity is like, it's everywhere.
Right.
Now, where do you go hunting? Like now you need to start finagling access. And, I never really heard the word access. I mean, down here, you park the truck and just start walking. You just hope you don't die and find water first,
Oh man, it's so different out on the East Coast, man. Like where I just came from is like if you're not like in a club or like own land or like your cousin owns land or something, like
Yeah.
you're just pretty much out of luck.
Yeah. And some of the Northwest, I mean, especially waterfowl hunting is very similar to that, right? Like you got to have connections and
Hmm.
ranch hands and, bring them little gifts and, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
So I really learned like the difference in, yes, it's both Western hunting, right? It's deemed as Western hunting, but like it's so different Northwest to Southwest.
Yeah.
It's the Northwest is it's a lot more of the two worlds put together, kind of the whitetail East Coast hunting mixed with the Southwest big game hunting. Like it's a really interesting mix of the two. And so I really started to learn it and have this massive paradigm shift. So anyways, I ended up coming home, graduated, came home, was working for the family business. And, I just couldn't get it out of my head of how much opportunity was truly out there. So I'm coming home.
Yeah.
I have an
Now
older
let me ask
brother.
you too. Did you have um, like a desire to be in the business world, or did you really gravitate? Because you said you did business school, I did too, and were you really into that? Because I've dealt with a few hunting companies in my short span of doing this, but
Yeah.
I gotta say, like, GoHunt is the most legit company I've ever dealt with. Like, I
Yeah.
recently became like a partner and been dealing with Matt and stuff. And,
Yeah.
like when Outdoor Class came out, he sent me like a one sheet and like, just like very organized, very detailed, like good, like just well done stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so yes, I've always been into the business world, right? But I do have this like, I have this want to do it my way kind of streak in me, right? So like, I don't know. It's been interesting as I've gotten older to this fire of doing things for me, right?
Hmm.
And just kind of taking my own path. Obviously coming from the family that I come from, there's a lot of look. People say whatever they want to say. They can always make an excuse or talk about it, and some of the times they are right. But I never wanted. I always tried to fend off of like somebody being able to say, "Oh, he did it just because his family," or he
Yeah.
could do it just because of his family. And honestly, that's why I was attracted to sports at a high level. That's why I've been attracted to hunting at a high level.
Yeah.
It's because it doesn't matter what family you come
It's
from,
on
who
you.
you are, it is on you at the end of the day. Like either you're packing in 15 miles in the backcountry and getting something killed and coming out, or you're not.
Yeah.
Like there's no way around it. You have to do it the same way as everybody else. And so I've always been attracted to like recreational activities like that, or
Yeah.
you know,
That's
certain.
interesting, man, because like I feel that because my dad also is a self-made man, also very successful, built a
Yeah,
publicly traded company, was in the Virginia State Senate, and
yeah,
but I think that's one reason why I really gravitated toward. He got me started in waterfowl, but like when I found bow hunting whitetails, I was like, that's me, and I
yeah,
like taught myself that, and I was like all in. And then
yep,
this venture here is kind of like. It has completely nothing to do with what my dad does, and he's
yeah,
been really cool about supporting me and helping me out. But yeah, I feel that, man. That's cool.
yeah. So I'm a middle kid too. Maybe that has something to do with it, like kind of that middle child stuff going on. But I just like, I always try to find like, you know, the way to do it the right, no, I shouldn't say the right way, but the way to do it like without the handout, right? Or
Yeah.
without the, the complete safe fail. So, I've always been into business, obviously, just seeing how my dad is. And I like business. Business is also a ton of strategy. I'm very like
Hmm.
strategy stuff. I mean, business is, you're playing chess every day. There's nothing better. Um, but again, that same kind of issue I had with football and being an outdoorsman or whatever, like gaming and casinos, I love it. I love what it's done for the family. I love what it's done for Nevada and Vegas. And I love all of it. It's a very interesting life. I mean, it's entertainment at the end of the day, right? But like, I'm not fully into it. So my mind would always be going down the path of hunting.
Yeah.
And I grew up as, I grew up as a redneck mountain man, just born in the wrong place. I mean,
Yeah.
I really was. I was shooting rabbits out in the desert. I was shooting everything in my backyard known to man. It's just like what I was always trying to do, going hunting any chance I got. And I was born in the city. Can't do anything about that.
Right.
So I tried to do as much as I could with the outdoors, with where I was born. So when I came home, working for the family business, I just wasn't fully into gaming. And so I was constantly thinking about, hunting and the opportunities there and how to get involved and all this stuff. And when I was 23, maybe 24, I wrote an email to Jason Hairston of KUIU. I don't know if you know of Jason Hairston at all, but the founder of KUIU.
Mm-hmm.
And because he put out a content piece right before he launched the business called The Defiant Troublemaker. It was an amazingly written piece of, like, he was defiant in shaking up this industry and shaking up everything that it was about. And his personality lent itself very much to that. I kind of on the personal side, that's kind of how I looked at life, is like kind of wanted to do things my own way. A lot of the times, at caused a lot of issues in my life, having that fire in me of like wanting to do things my way. I mean, wise people learn from other people, right? That's the famous saying, and it took me a while to learn that. But it just really stuck with me when I read that piece. So I reached out to him. I wrote an email, not expecting anything, and it was. I reference it quite a bit. I'll try to reference it every couple months or so just to remember where this all came from. But it's pretty embarrassing. I didn't know what I was asking. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of like, it struck a chord with me. I wanted to reach out, and I put together an email that made no sense really. And, I'm 23 years old. Anyways, he responds, and to my surprise, he responded. Andy was coming through Vegas on a business trip. So he said, let's sit down and get some lunch. No nice. Idea why he said that or agreed to it. I wish he was still around so I could ask him truly why he responded.
Yeah.
But he did. And him and I ended up getting lunch. And he was a huge mentor of mine, doing something in the industry. There was a time there that I was going to go work for him in Dixon, California. So he was going to spin off his backpacks, because he has those carbon fiber frames, the Icon line. Mm-hmm. He was going to spin those off and do a backpack company, like kind of go more like, firemen, military, all kinds of stuff.
Gotcha.
And I was going to go over there and help him with that. And ended up not working out, obviously. Best case scenario now, looking at it now with where I sit today. But, I thought I was like kind of making the leap of out of gaming, out of the family business, like going off and going to work for Jason and KUIU. And when it didn't work, like, it kind of put you back at the drawing board. And because I was settled with like, okay, I'm going to go do this. And then that goes out the back door. Now I kind of made the decision that I'm out and I want to go do this. And now I'm left with a blank slate. So just kind of thinking about.
It's interesting how sometimes those things that are so disappointing in the moment, actually, it's like, from my perspective, it's God, has a plan for you. But however you want to look at it, but, it led you to where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was my first, like, everything happens for a reason kind of experience, right? I was pretty disappointed. Jason and I were really close. It's always when you have that, like, you finally make the decision, you're settled, you're going to work for him, and then it goes away. It was another interesting time in my young career. So with that blank slate in front of me, I was just kind of thinking about what's out there. And interestingly enough, another everything happens for a reason type of story here. Chris Porter, who I co-founded the business with, he was working for the family business because at the time, online poker was still a very big thing. Like it
Oh
was
yeah.
huge, worldwide, nationwide, massive thing. And he was very high up at for the U.S. part of Full Tilt Poker on the
Okay.
marketing side.
Mm-hmm.
And he was brought on board to the family business to bridge the interactive gaming license with a platformed product already. So at the time, there was no technology platform that existed in the US, only overseas.
Mm.
And when the government decided that, there needed to be tax collected and all this stuff, you'll have to have Chris come on at some point to explain this poker world because it's very hard for me to explain. I'm not into it at all.
Yeah.
The feds essentially said it's blacked out here in the US because no states or the government's collecting tax on this gaming, where
Right.
if you look at the stateside gaming, that their tax rates are insanely high, right? Like they are one of the most taxed things out there.
Hmm.
So when they're saying that they want to get their hands on the tax money of the online poker, there was this big fight of, okay, how it's going to work is you have to have all these prerequisites to carry a license on stateside. And my dad fit all the prereqs of it, right? You had to have a resort gaming license. You had to have so many machines underneath your license. You had to have multi-jurisdictional. You had to have all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he fit it. Well, Chris was brought on to bridge his license with somebody who already built the technology and platform
Gotcha.
that facilitate the playing of online poker. So Chris was doing that. And when he was in the family business and I was kind of back at square one, figuring out what I wanted to do, I was doing all kinds of like application research and draw odds and things because what was out there it wasn't, the paradigm shift coming from the Northwest of like opportunity and coming back to the Southwest and opportunity not being a word. Like I wanted to shift that paradigm entirely with all my hunting people down here. So I was like, I'm telling them about opportunity and this and that, but you couldn't find it anywhere. It was very hard to find. I mean, back at the time, there was only magazines, and the magazines were covering like top 10
Right.
units at best, which
Yeah.
means no opportunity. Like that's what I was always indoctrinated with, is like, these are the 10 places to go hunting and you got to wait 10 years to do it.
Yeah.
Having the mentality of what I had in college, I'm like, man, this is no way. Right. So I'm doing a bunch of Google Earth stuff and like finding mountain ridges that run into a different adjacent unit that have much better draws, and like really treating Nevada, Arizona, Utah more as opportunity states. Like I was treating the states up there in the Northwest, but like on a different strategy down here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Chris Porter, him and I were friends, obviously roughly same age. He's got a similar personality, and he noticed what I was doing and pulling my hair out every day trying to figure all this stuff out, because I'm not smart enough to run my own draws, not smart enough to like truly do this, but I was trying as much as I could. And to see like how much opportunity is in these states that isn't really known about, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like doing all this stuff, reading, NRS laws and all this stuff, trying to figure it out. Well, Porter kept asking me like, where's the ESPN.com for hunting? I'm like, well, there isn't that. There's forums here. Check out these forums. So I'm pulling up these forums. Like, this is what I use the forums for. This is what I post in the forums for. This is, why I use these magazines is these 10 units is like, I don't want to go there. I'm not applying there because I'll never draw the tag. I'm looking at maybe a ridge line that runs into an adjacent unit that if I can find decent draw odds on, like, that's where I'm going to apply. So we're doing all this stuff. He keeps watching me for, I don't know, weeks, months. And he's the kind of guy that is like absolutely relentless to the point of so much frustration of question asking. Like he will ask a million questions until he understands something. And everybody here, because he runs the operations of the business, and everyone here will tell you, like, he would drive anyone crazy with the amount of questions he'll ask until it makes sense in his own head. Yeah. It has to make sense in his own head. And if it doesn't, he just keeps pressing and pressing. The good news about that is when he presses it, a lot of things, it's like, I don't know if anybody's familiar with therapy by any means, but like when you start talking about things and saying things start to connect because you're kind of externally, instead of internally trying to connect them, you're externally throwing
Right.
them
You say it
around.
out loud and you're like,
Yeah,
wow,
it's
that
like
makes no sense at all.
exactly things don't connect and things do connect, and you start to realize all this stuff that's been in my head as I'm saying it to him, and as he's asking me questions back, I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, this is, this, there's a lot here. There's a lot of opportunity. And he kept saying, why don't we do all of it? Why can't we do all of it? Is there information for all of it? Absolutely. There is information for all of this. Like the state has to
Right.
provide information on all of the hunting opportunity out there. So he asked me, well, can you build something with all of it? I said, well, if it's possible. And he said, yeah, it absolutely is possible. It's the internet. Like anything is possible. And that's where I was not familiar. I mean, I came from brick and mortar gaming and was
Yeah.
a redneck all through college. So like, it's when Amazon and Zillow and, all these travel websites were all blowing up. So he was looking at it because that's the world he was in, right? Is like
Yeah.
how to make everything super easy online. I mean, that's what he was doing with poker, get more people in, make it easier for them to play, all this stuff. So he's looking at it from that lens. I'm looking at it from there's opportunity. I just need to find it so I can provide it to people.
Yeah.
And that was the genesis for GOHUNT was that paradigm shift I had in college mixed with the vision of online from Chris Porter.
Yeah.
My vision of overall hunting now that it was much better rounded out from where I grew up to where I went to college and everything in between.
Yeah.
And him and I worked together and starting to produce like a real business opportunity. And we did.
Yeah. Dude, it's so amazing because, I'm fairly new into the game of Western hunting. And so GoHunt was already around when I kind of started, which was amazing because I've been using GoHunt for years, like since I started. And I can't imagine like trying to do what I did or like trying to get into it without having that resource. And even like, it's so amazing for research, not only for regulations, but also just like information about units, and even just like your people, which is kind of leads me into the next thing is like, I like was trying to figure out where to go kill my first antelope, which is right here. And like I reached out to Trail and he like personally talked to me and like helped me find a place to go because I was an insider but he's so cool. I think he probably would just help me anyway. But
He's awesome. I love Trail.
Yeah, me too. He's been on the podcast before, but it kind of leads me into my next segment, which is I'd love to hear you talk on the importance of tribe and like how you built this crew of guys. Like where did you find like Brady and Trail? Like I can imagine you like pulling Brady like off a mountain somewhere like all scraggly and stuff and like Trail's out bow hunting. Yeah,
not far off at all on the Brady comment.
Yeah, how did you build this this crew that you got assembled?
So Chris and I, we understood the value of how evenly weighted our perspectives were on his coming from online and mine coming from hunting. And when we were building out all of the magic that came from, his completely brand new mind to hunting, but his understanding of online, and then like what he would bring to the table, and then my completely fresh mind of online but full understanding of hunting, like we outweighed each other so nicely on each of our weaknesses that we actually bolstered both of our strengths by the questions we were asking. And there was a lot of magic in that. And so we were like maniacally focused on when we build out this team, for every we're going to bring on a me. Right. So like, we're going to keep this weighed out like this. So this magic in between can keep happening. So we hired a tech guy our first like actual hire. His name was Andrew Baca. And then from there we hired Brady Miller, and how I found Brady Miller was through Instagram.
Okay.
And at the time I was pretty active on Instagram just cause I was hunting a lot, and my relationship with Jason and Kuyu and some of the other guys that I've known in the industry, Brendan Burns, who works at Kuyu as well, is like one of the most unbelievable hunters on the planet, bow hunters on the planet. Like I was pretty active there, and I found Brady through through that. And I'm like, man, this guy, you can just tell he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he's a photographer, so it doesn't help, free assets, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like marketing is a big thing. And man, he just, everything he talked about through his social and who he was, he's just such a real person. I'm like, that is, and he's from Minnesota, but lived in Montana and was doing all kinds of hunting that I was doing, that I was familiar with. Like he would be awesome. So I reached out to him on Instagram, and this is where you're not wrong. He was tagging fish in the backcountry as a fish biologist, tagging fish in the Montana backcountry. He had spent 126 days in a tent that year.
Oh my God.
The year we pulled him out of the backcountry.
So you really did pull him out of a mountain tent.
Legitimately 100% pulled him out of the backcountry. It was 126 days in a tent. And we pulled him to Las Vegas. And
wow.
Was
it hard to get him to like move to Vegas?
Yeah, yes, and no. I mean, he believed in what we were doing, and he believed in putting his efforts into it. Yeah. And he has grown. Him and Brandon Evans have grown with this business more than anyone, and they will continue to do so. Just Brady is one of the hardest working soldiers out there, and I will put him up against anyone. I mean, that guy, he's the guy that'll go on a 18-day backpack hunt, and anytime he gets service on a mountain peak, he's working. Like guy, he's unbelievable. I mean, like his work ethic is absolutely unmatched, and I'll put it up against anybody.
Wow.
And
that's awesome.
When he was here, it showed through his social media, it showed through his first day here on site, and continues to show through now 7 years later. So we pulled him out of the backcountry, and anyways, scraggly hair, beard down to the chest, like literally the Brady Miller that everyone sees today is who walked into our office on day one. Unbelievably smart, just so dedicated. Brady is like, he's been a gift for this business. I mean, his fingerprints are all over GOHUNT. Obviously, I think anybody could see that.
Yeah.
So anyways, then we hired another tech guy. Then we hired another hunter, another tech guy, another hunter. We've been focused on that ever since. I mean, that is truly how we've been focused. And when we have these collaborative meetings, product and research, we keep them, product being the engineers and tech people. I mean, they don't have meetings by themselves. There is always our hunters in that group. Brady, Brandon, Trail, Neville, myself. Like, we are always in it with people.
Yeah. Because you got to be able to see it from both sides, exactly. Like from your customer's point of view.
Exactly. You want the magic in between, right?
You must know your audience.
These engineers don't know anything about hunting. Right. And when we explain it to them, they will ask such a simple, rudimentary question
that you wouldn't even thought of.
That because it's the paradigm shift again, right? It's like we're stuck behind our paradigm, and we can't see it any other way. And that's just the way life goes when you become, as deep into something as we are. And they will ask something so simple, and that is what we do. Like, that is the start of the product we build, is because of this completely, 2-year-old type question about hunting. And it happens time and time again. And that's really been our secret sauce of, we treat this as, the most formal business out there. Like you said, when you're dealing with that and see these things come across. I mean, our backgrounds, Chris's background in business and my background in business is at the highest of levels. So we bring that maturity in, but also leave room for this collaboration of, just because you don't know anything about hunting doesn't mean you shouldn't be in the meeting. Like, you're the guy I want in the meeting. Listen to us talk and ask your questions, right? It's like, that's been the secret sauce of GOHUNT, and what we built today. And a lot of outdoor classes is what came from that as well.
It's really refreshing to see that. I mean, this is just from my perspective, outside looking in. So but like, it seems like you built a really cool culture there, kind of like you're saying. And I remember, going to the expo and seeing Brady and Trail, and then, meeting some of your tech guys too. And it was just cool having both sides of that there, and like bringing that professionalism into the hunting space, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, and honestly, it needed that, because that was
Hmm.
a lot. That was a lot of what was uncovered too. Is everything that existed before us. And I'm not afraid. I'm not a, I don't hide behind this at all, but everything before us, they were hunters first and business second. They had businesses so they could go hunting.
Right.
This has nothing to do with that. Like, everybody always asks and says, like, oh man, it must be so nice to have a hunting company. Like, you must hunt so much. I hunted way more before
Yeah.
a hunting company. Like, it's I shouldn't be the one doing it, right? We should be listening to the people who are using our
Hmm.
products, like these real world people out there, our customers who are using the products on their family hunts, their weekend hunts, their off time research. That's who we're listening to. I don't need to hunt, right? Like, the foundation of my hunting is what the foundation of my hunting and the foundation of Chris's online experience and everybody we brought from start to finish onto the team. We have what we have. Now it's time to listen to the customers. I don't need to hunt anymore. Like, my foundation is what created a lot of the vision, and now it's up to our customers to provide the rest for us, right?
Hmm.
And it's a business first, and that was a lot of our DNA and the culture here. Is like, look, there is a really good culture here. I'm very proud of that. It's been fun to build a medium sized business, but keep a small startup type of culture,
Right.
right? Like, and that's a hard thing to do, to have that small startup culture, but also have like this well put, buttoned up,
Right.
presentation to what we do, and do things the right way. Um, but
Yeah, it's
that's
kind of like that balance there of like, like being best friends with your kid. It's like,
Yes. You
yes, we're
still got
best
to be a parent.
friends,
You
but I
still have to
gotta,
be a parent.
right,
Yeah,
I gotta
exactly.
discipline you sometimes.
And it's hard to do. So,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, we've created that just over time. Kept that startup DNA, and created that business first mentality, no matter what, over time. And that's what we do. So, and that's what we're dedicated to. Is we're dedicated to the customers, not ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't about right. This isn't about me going on more hunts next year, like more customers so I can
Right.
go on hunts next year. I want to get to a point where we're so busy, maybe I don't hunt, like,
Mm.
for right. Like, that's what I'm dedicated to, is making this product to where it's getting enough people out in the field that we're that busy.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Even into I can see that even into like to your gear shop because um, I can, I know pretty much if I look at something in the Go Hunt shop, it's like I know it's legit because probably Trail and Brady looked at it or like made sure, and same thing. Like I've just texted Trail before and be like, hey man, you got any recommendations on boots? And he'll answer my questions, and we're kind of, I mean, I would say we're kind of friends. I don't know him super well, um, but yeah, I mean, I know anything in there is probably legit, and
Yeah. So where
so
that came from is we have we had we have so much time in the field between Trail, Brady, myself, Brandon, Dave Barnett, all these other guys we have in the office. We have wasted so much money on things that are supposed to be good, right?
yeah,
Like, new, whatever you want to call it, comes out and it's got a new way of doing something.
right,
Like, we're the idiots that spend our money to try it, right? And luckily in the past, like, I had so many hunts in the past and did so much hunting in the past that, like, I could have a hunt a day or two ruined by gear, because then I would just go hunting again. Like,
right,
most people don't have that, though. Most
yeah,
people are on their, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks a year,
hmm,
whatever it is. They don't have time to blow 5 days on failed gear.
yep,
And we were getting a lot of questions from people of why do you run that tent or backpack or boots or bow sight, whatever it is, in the films we were making. We were using those just as marketing. I mean, there's no better marketing on the planet than these filmed hunts.
yeah,
And we were getting a lot of those questions. So we decided, why don't we create a store where this is only the stuff that we have spent our money on and has worked for us,
yeah,
right? Like, we are confident putting in these products that we carry. We are confident of putting these into a customer's hands and not ruining their hunt. Like
Yeah.
that's the end all be all. Is we don't want to ruin any hour, day, second, whatever it is of their hunt with the
Yeah.
gear that we sell them. So let's create a store that is only that.
Yeah.
And I think hunting
Plus,
needs that.
you're buying like, sorry to cut you off, but you're supporting a hunting company, even if, so like I was in the market for a 0 degree bag.
Yeah,
Kuyu and Stone Glacier have been sold out of 0 degree bags, probably because of the COVID or
yeah,
whatever, for like ever. And
forever.
then I saw on the 4th of July sale, there's a Marmot 0 degree bag, which I already have good experience with their bags, and it was on sale for a really good deal. And I
Yeah,
picked it up, and I'm still supporting a hunting company.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot to be said for supporting the hunting company too, because there's a lot of people out there that you spend your dollars with them, and it's actually dollars that are going back to fight you on what you love to
Yeah.
do, right? So
REI.
exactly. So I didn't say the names. Yeah. So that's also a huge part of it too. Was like, we don't. There's not a lot of protection of this life that we love.
Hmm.
So the
Yeah.
more the more the better, and true. And I'm talking true protection of the lifestyle.
Right.
And
And it goes
it's
to something else I've heard you say before, which is, um, was it, you said non-resident hunting is the purest form of conservation,
correct.
because at the end of the day, that's where your revenue to these states is coming in. That's what's paying for conservation dollars, and that's what the non-hunters or the anti-hunters don't realize. And what the crusty old haters, they're like, oh, keep all these guys out of my state, and I
Exactly.
get that, but we
Look,
need that.
yes, I get it too. And how many times in life is the answer exactly what you wanted to hear? Like I have yet to have an experience in my life where the answer to the problem is exactly what I want it to be. It's
Yeah.
always a give and a take. The,
Yeah.
the answer is always a give and a take. That's the right answer. And where we are with hunting today, human expansion, drought, recreational expansion,
Mm.
private land grabs, all this stuff that's going on. Like we have one way to combat it, one way, and
Yeah.
that's more hunters, more
Right.
more people who understand it and love this lifestyle is the way we can protect it. We're already losing at such a. I don't. This isn't no fear based at all. I can't stand that stuff. It's just
Yeah, me either.
the reality of talking about it is we're already in a point where there's really, I mean, it's going pretty fast. So like we can't just keep doing what we're doing. We can't keep people out. We can't keep doing what we're doing.
Right.
The example I like to use the best is Oregon this last year had a bill on the table that actually reached their state floor of killing all
Wow.
hunting, not fang and fur hunting, not the furry critter hunting. Like this is, I'm talking all hunting across the
Just
board.
hunting
There
ban.
was a bill that actually
That's
made it to the
crazy.
state floor. And to think like, yeah, it didn't pass. And a lot of people think, oh, the stuff like that will never pass. It made it to the floor. So
Yeah.
you think it's already made it that far. How long is it until, a state like Oregon is overrun by
Yeah.
people who don't understand hunting, why it is here, why it's part of the lifestyle, why humans are stewards of wild animals and wild places like
Yeah. And
that.
anything insidious in life is never really like usually a full-on frontal assault. It's always an erosion, a chipping away over
Very
time.
small, clean erosion. So it feels like you're not losing.
Hmm.
And the reality is we are. So the way to combat it is educate people, right? Tell them why it matters and what it is and what this lifestyle is. It's not what you think. Here, this is what it truly is. I can't tell you, there is not one anti-hunter that I have spent an hour with, and I'm talking a level-headed one, not one of those crazy ones that just screams and yells, which I'm sure we all know some of those. But like by the end of the conversation, they see where I'm coming from. I see where they're coming from. And
Yeah.
the middle ground is something we can both live with. Right.
Yeah.
And that's, so the reason I say non-resident hunting is the purest form of conservation. It's bringing Oregon isn't supporting themselves just on their resident dollars. I mean, they're having a bill reach the state floor that is out there to kill all hunting. What would help that is more non-residents applying into that state.
Hmm.
So the state has more money to spend on fish and wildlife education, fish and wildlife protection, on easements, on land protection, on water protection and water rights, whatever it is. Like
Yeah.
that's how the nation is set up with the Pittman Robertson Fund, such that the more people who apply, the better. That is the ultimate lines of protection, is the state getting their hands on enough money to protect the lands and the animals to the best that they see fit, the ones that are actually in control of doing it. We can all donate to nonprofits and all this stuff, and that does help. It does work. They do a great job, but it's not on the ground level of these
Right.
of each of these, single states
Yeah.
where, every Colorado has a great hunting culture. They have a lot of hunting opportunity. It's probably one of the most dense non-resident hunting states out there with the amount of elk opportunity and all this stuff. There's so much money that goes into that state for hunting because of non-residents. Their hunting is doing well, right? I mean, obviously people are always coming after fur and fang like everywhere, but
Yeah.
the more people you can get into that state to protect those types of bands,
Yeah.
the better it is. So we need to start getting, it's the neighbor helping the neighbor, right? It's like Oregon needs some help. What's the way we can help? Let's all apply in there and give them some more money.
Yeah. Because money
I
talks.
mean, it's an ultra simple way to say it. I don't want to be called out on a black and white conversation here, but that's just a really simple way to say it in a quick amount of time.
Yeah. And yeah, even the Pittman Robertson thing is under attack, which I recommend people go to like SCI or whatever and sign that petition or whatever to make sure that doesn't happen. But interesting, the Robertson in that is the dad of Pat Robertson. He was a senator. His name is Willis Robertson. His son is Pat Robertson, who's a famous televangelist who was my former employer through the Christian Broadcasting Network.
Really?
Yeah. But anyway, so I know you're a busy dude. It's been about an hour, so I don't want to take too much more time. But before we go, I do want to ask you really quick just about outdoor class. Just we don't have to go into a ton of detail, but just tell folks what it is, why you set it up, and why it's valuable.
Yeah. So a lot of this came from that magic that I've been talking about, where the second grade type of question coming to a seasoned hunter from our product and technologists, things that we were uncovering, the questions, some of these questions that they were asking, what it was leading to is just education, like full blown education. And yes, GOHUNT does an amazing job of surfacing information and surfacing opportunity and surfacing tips and tactics and things like that. But there's this education part that, the long lasting extended education part that kind of drops off. And GOHUNT already does enough and does so much that it's hard for us to explain everything. And we've honestly we've had this issue for a very long time of trying to explain everything it does. If someone's not willing to listen to us for 15 minutes, then we can't get out really the true word of what it does. The last thing we wanted to do was add an education piece into that. And education, I think, deserves a spot of a place of its own. And I know education isn't like, the most attractive word out there. So I'm trying to find a better word to paint it in right now, or a better light to paint it in. But this outdoor class came together and now exists for a true 101 hunter. That the analogy I like to use here is when you go get your driver's license, when you finish your driver's ed course, like you know how to drive a car. You know what you're doing. You have to go take a test. You have to go do this. The day you get your license, you are proficient-ish, behind the wheel of a car, as long as you're not a crazy teenager like I was. I wouldn't say I was very proficient. My teenage mind got the better of me a couple times.
Me too.
But like, you do know what you're doing behind the wheel of a car. When you go get your hunter safety, you still, like, there is still, okay, you get your hunter safety card. There is still like okay, now what? There is okay, now what moment when you get that hunter safety card. There's a huge void there, right? And these questions that we have been asked over a period of time from our technologists and people who are new to hunting, there needs to be a starting point for those people.
Yeah.
Of, okay, hunter safety card, here's what's going to make you a competent hunter. Like, hunter safety doesn't do that. This will. Yeah. This course will make you a hunter. You will be competent and confident when you go out into the woods, of not wasting time, being proficient, understanding how to get the animal back home and do what you want to do with it. Mm-hmm. You will be proficient in that type of education.
Or even if you're coming from a purely whitetail or waterfowl background, I think this is really helpful for those guys who want to come out west and
Yes,
because spot and stalk western hunting is very different from
very different.
eastern whitetail.
Very, very different. And so that was the starting point, but that's a pretty narrow vision for a business. So we kind of extrapolated that into the long lasting education where, guys like me are trying to hone the last, 10, 20% of their skills on something that doesn't happen all the time, right? Like I'm so close to drawing the tag I want in Utah, the elk tag I want in Utah as a non-resident. It's taken me way too many years. The last thing I want to do is to go into that hunt. I mean, and it's not a hunt that I get to do a lot, right? Like, or ever for that matter.
Yeah.
So I want to hone the last parts of my early elk calling skills, right? Like I want to go out there and kill a mature bull.
Mm-hmm.
I've been waiting forever for this tag. It's a unit I've spent a lot of time in. I know what's in there, but I've never hunted elk at this specific time of the year. And I know, listening to Corey Jacobson, and I know listening to some of these crazy seasoned elk hunters out there, you can get these mature bulls to sound off early before, pre-rut, and you can work your way in on them. I want to learn that before I draw this tag, right? I'm trying to hone this last little bit of my elk hunting skills before I draw this tag. So then this outdoor class becomes like the 101 platform, and then also let's hone the last bits of your skills for some of these tags that are looming out there that you have the possibility of drawing, right? It's like, be the lucky one to draw the random strip tag, Arizona strip mule deer tag. I want to know a little bit more about desert mule deer before I'm never have the tag again in your life, best tag in the world, right? Like I want to do as much as I can to be proficient before I hit that hunt.
For sure.
And you time that with all the skills you've learned over the past, like all the skills I've learned on the general season deer hunts and hunting these different states and all this stuff. But I still want to know that little bit more before I actually go off into that opportunity. So it's become a very well-rounded out education platform of just hunting overall. And then obviously there's the fun side of like culinary and cooking.
Yeah.
And then we have some cool stuff we're working on for kind of like thriving in the backcountry kind of stuff.
Cool.
Right. It took me a while. I've been on a lot of backcountry hunts, a lot. I've been super fortunate to go up north on some sheep hunts. I've learned a lot through failure over the years of backcountry hunting. I would have loved this course we're talking about putting together. Would have been really nice to have before I hit my first backcountry hunt, or even backcountry hunt at that rate.
You've done Alaska and Doll sheep?
Yeah, I have.
I just booked mine for 23.
Did you? No, sure.
Oh man.
Yeah. Oh, that's
you got a stone. Dang, that Doll sheep is huge.
I drew my desert New Mexico. Then I've done Doll and Stone. Now I got to draw my Rocky somewhere. So, but yeah, it's become a really well rounded out, like hone your skills 101 type education platform.
Nice.
And I think,
like I said, it's beautifully put together.
Thank you. And I think everybody's started to learn, like, online education doesn't mean you're going back to school, right? This is the kind of stuff that is interesting and that you want to learn and want to figure out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool, man. One species, one weapon, one terrain type for the rest of your life. What are you doing?
Yeah. So my easy answer to that, I tell people all the time, killing a big mule deer with your bow, like that is my ultimate, like when that happens, there is nothing better in life than that for me on the hunting side of things. Enjoyment though, like on the full hunt enjoyment, front-ish backcountry antelope hunting with the muzzleloader is like
cool.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah. There's a Colorado antelope muzzleloader tag that I probably will be able to draw next year, hoping to do. So we'll see.
I drew mine last year, and it was one of the most enjoyable hunts I've ever had.
Cool, man. Yeah, antelope are so fun.
It is.
This is my first Western big game animal.
If I had to choose one of anything, it would be high desert archery mule deer for sure.
Okay.
Like I could live with that for the rest of my life.
Cool, man. Well, dude, it's been a little over an hour, so I appreciate. I know we probably went over a little bit, but dude, I really appreciate your time. It's been great getting to know you, and hope to see you again sometime soon. Maybe we can link up. I don't know, sometime this year at the expo or whenever.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Thank you.